Hello everybody, welcome to another Monday. This one is the 25th of May, 2020. I am as always Dakian, and I'm here to ramble. And the first thing you'll notice is that I've finished two models left over from last week. The Mixed Studios sort of little diorama models, and also we have the robot from Reaper here in the background. We'll talk about him later. Now, out of these two, I feel the wizard was the more successful one, the more interesting model. Well, maybe not model, but the more interesting paint job by me. This one was hard to do much with, to be honest. But you know, the basic idea is nifty enough. The big skull. I painted the skull as an actual skull instead of a statue skull because I thought, it's probably a giant's skull. And the face isn't very interesting, but there's not a lot of detail to it. It's kind of shallow, and so that's one reason I actually decided to glue the hat on and hide it a little bit. And the wizard has a lot more going on here. And also I added some pieces, like I mentioned, to the 3 of the books were added by me to the base. And, you know, I think I came up with some interesting uses of color here. And, yeah, no real issues. Well, his fingerless... I was uncertain about his hands. He's clearly wearing fingerless gloves, but they seem to be in 2 sections, and then it looked like he has really long fingernails or claws or something, but I decided to just sort of gloss over that. Not gloss as in glossy paint or gloss varnish, but just kind of paint it in a way so those details become a bit fuzzy and indistinct and not a point of focus, because I don't want to draw attention to it. I think it's just a messy sculpt, actually. So I want you to look more at other parts of the model. And then we have the robot, which is very simply painted, just in some different metallics. And you might wonder, I started 2 other Reaper miniatures at the same time. Why am I not showing them? Well, I think you can guess why. They're not done. You'll see them in their half-finished state later. But yeah, I did finish some more stuff, some bones actually, apart from this. Let's take a look at those. So here's the collection of bones minis I finished this past week. Starting with the werebore, who's not very interesting. I couldn't come up with anything cool to do with him. So he's just kind of brown. A little boring. Hopefully the highlighting makes him seem more dynamic and interesting. Then we have all the whites, who are mostly just armored up. I went with a very strong matte varnish on these. Decided that it doesn't really matter if the metal looks dull because they've been in the ground for a while. So I used my Vallejo matte Rattle Can varnish, which kills just about every piece of shine there is. Then I just added some spot gloss to the eyes specifically and to the jewels on these swords. And then after that, I added some blood and gore effects to the weapons. This is my usual mix of Tamiya clear red and some black ink. And it's mostly black. It's because I wanted it to look like mostly dried blood. Like it's really old. There's a few splashes of brighter red. And yeah. Flocking's coming off a little bit. Not much to say about that, really. And then we have this big dude, the zombie dragon, who I painted as sort of a, I thought he was probably a green dragon before he became a zombie in this case. Anything interesting to note here? Well, I painted the reliefs. I tried to add some more variations of color into the stone. I don't know if you can tell, but there is an undertone of purple in these top rocks and of sort of turquoise in these lower ones. Plus, I added some color to the reliefs. Like they were originally, these are dragons, and they originally had colors like blue and green and red, but have been sort of faded with age, is the effect I was going for. And the blood effects on this one are, I was trying out a new product, the secret weapon, I forget what it's called. It's their blood effects paint, which is more, not as viscous. It's more like a normal acrylic paint in consistency compared to the Tamiya clear red. So it's a little bit easier to work with. It doesn't have quite the same effect. I think they have both. These two products have kind of different uses for different. If you want to have different subtle differences, I find it hard to explain exactly. It's more of an artistic thing. Anyway, hopefully this guy looks properly dramatic and cool.
Still on the docket from last week, we have these two, the Tiefling Sorceress and the Dwarven Thief. Now, the paint that is on them now is just test colors. It's not indicative of anything really. I had this blue-green on my palette and decided to just splash it on there to see what it looks like. But, you know, I might change that completely. But they're well on the way. I mean, in the sense that they are assembled, based, primed, and have some swatches of color on them. Now things will proceed pretty rapidly if I just devote an evening to them. So out of the Dreadmere box, this is what I settled on for prepping this week. We have 3 soldiers, town guards perhaps, with slightly tattered hems on the tabards, and interesting skull insignia on their shields, and also their pauldrons are skull-shaped. So they're not your average town guards, perhaps. And then I went for some vehicles. We have the boat, with clearly a fishing boat. There's some fish here, there, and some fish here. These 2 fish were actually loose, and I had to choose where to glue them. And I decided there was already enough stuff on the right side of the boat, the starboard, showing off my knowledge here. So I put these on the port side, and also in the middle, because there was stuff in the fore and the aft already, the prow and the bow. I might have mixed up my terminology there. Anyway, there's some oars going with that, and in the image with the Kickstarter, I think they glued those in place, but I decided, nah, I'm not going to do that. I want to have them loose. It makes them more difficult to paint, but it makes it easier to store, on the other hand. Same thing with this cart. It comes with a box and a barrel, and I saw no reason to glue those in place. I mean, I have other boxes that I could pile on here. Oops. Well, here we go. There's no donkey or oxen or horse provided for this cart. So it's just a cart standing around. And finally a raft. This is just a raft. There was nothing extra for it. But I think these will not be too complicated to finish up. Still in early stages of prep, we have some of these Arcane Factories minis. So see, we got 3 of them laid out here in pieces to show you how complex some of them are. This guy is only in 3 pieces. He has, these are actually his arms. He's got some sort of magical effect coming out of them. This one, I've glued one leg. The forward leg here was separate. I glued that on. We've got the head and both arms. This one is simpler. It's the head and both arms are actually attached to this pole arm. So it attaches at the same time. Over here, I have assembled the other 9. As you can see, cleaned, assembled, based. Not fully based. They don't have any other material on the bases yet. But basically it's just putting some basing grid on there and then priming them. I did screw up this model here. It probably looks alright to you from this distance, where it's in focus. But when I went back to the Kickstarter page and looked at the illustrations, what they were supposed to be, I discovered that, well, the right arm is supposed to be pointing upwards. That's a minor point. The other thing, oh, okay, this is not in focus. Okay, there we go. So this sword is actually supposed to be point down. And you can tell from the way the hand is cupping the hilt there. She's holding it like this. I didn't see that because I don't have that acute eye vision. I mean, I could have seen it if I'd had my glasses on and was looking closely, but I missed it, and now it's glued on very firmly. It's pinned actually all the way up into her shoulder. So taking this off and repositioning it would require very extensive work. And I don't really feel up to it. I'm just inclined to say screw it. Most people look at it from the front, and they're not going to really look at the hand and the exact position of it. So just let it be. It'll probably be fine. Most of the others I think I managed to assemble correctly. Yeah, but that is all the stuff in progress currently. Well, there's no new arrivals this week, and as you've seen, I've got a bunch of character minis to paint, so I don't think I need to add any more humans or humanoids of that sort to the queue if I want some variety in my painting the upcoming week. So I've turned to the bones for Kickstarter and picked out a few things here. First off, this is from the add-ons. This is the Tree of Despair, which is actually very simple. It's a base, a big tree, and then there's a choice of 2 victims, male or female, to hang from the tree, and there's a bunch of vultures you can add to it. Here's the male dude. Now, there's only room for 1 victim. I suppose you could do some sort of pinning and make them swappable, but what I think I'm going to do instead is just pick 1 and use the other for something else. I'll try to... I have an idea for maybe some other place to hang the other victim. I think you'll see in the coming weeks. Then I went into the Dreadmere expansion and picked out some monsters. What we have here, we have 2 worms of some sort. We have 2 giant frogs.
one with a huge tongue out, or maybe it's spitting something. Not sure. And then a couple of fishes. Well, this... I think this is a fish with legs. A fish, sort of combination fish crustacean. So I don't need to have the kind of flying stand that makes it look like it's swimming. I can actually put it on a ground base and have it walking around. And this thing is interesting. Some sort of amphibian reptile thing with a really big mouth. Big maw gaping open. So there's 6 little monsters, and the big tree is what I want to prep for next week. That was it, actually. That was the show for this week. Hope you liked it. Click like, subscribe, comment, share, and be back again in a week. Same day, same channel, same me. But for now, I'm signing off.